Why very few men enroll for therapy despite going through the emotional trauma and psychological troubles? We often discuss this aspect of therapy in our therapeutic communities. When we pay attention, when we observe that, we find that there is a disproportionate amount of women participating and actively seeking for therapy when compared to men. If we objectively assess and watch it from the third person's point of view, we could see that men does have a greater sense of stigma regarding therapy or seeking help. If we have to address the elephant in the room, in many of the cases, men tend to approach us, men tend to seek the help, men tend to approach by the WhatsApp text, normal call, or by the email, or by DMs. They will make an effort and they will ask all the genuine questions like how much it's going to cost and how long you're going to take the session, what are the privacy concerns, does my data is going to be secure, and then they will not turn up for the session. But when we compare this phenomena with women, just out of 100, 95 to 96% of the times they're going to turn up for the session. So what is the main reason? What are the criteria, or what are the thought processes that are going behind these men's mind? Let's dig deep and dive into the issue. The first and foremost important thing is the stigma associated with seeking help and therapy. That in our societies, in our patriarchal societies, men are always coached, men are always appreciated for their individuality and independence and being strong, masculine, and not depending on anyone, having the gumption and power to earn bread for the family and being able and being the enabler or protector of the family. We don't celebrate our men being vulnerable. We often say that if somebody is crying, we say that don't cry like a girl. Be a man. So undercurrently, we are always putting them in a corner that self-sufficiency is the greatest achievement of your life. You doesn't have to depend on anyone. Seeking help is often seen with a diminished look. Just observe our East Asian parenting styles. We often tend to make this emphasis on boys that you are not allowed to cry. Don't cry like a girl. Stop complaining like a woman. Even though you are going through a great hell amount of turmoil, you are not encouraged to come out and speak about it. These patterns are always learned from their father figure. Obviously, when they look that their father is never showing their emotions, he's never crying, he's never saying anything that he's feeling weak or he's unable to understand what's happening in his life or seeking somebody's help, we tend to inculcate this maladaptive behavior and faulty thought pattern from our parents, our fathers, the men in our family. So most often what do? We build a firewall between us and society. We tend to not to believe on society. We tend to not to take help from the society. We are always on a vigilant and paranoid thought that somebody might use us if we're gonna ask them for help. So they might take an advantage and they can manipulate us. So in this faulty gumption and this notion that we shouldn't ask anyone's help, we often suffer alone. It's clearly understandable. If we put ourselves in their shoes, we could understand that the society might judge these people as a failure. And we are not trained to accept our own shit. We are not trained to accept our own personal failures, even though it's not a failure. So what does these people do? They tend to take the courage and drive from their past experiences and try to understand that their current situation can also be manageable like they have managed in previous times when they didn't have money, when they didn't have the support, when they didn't have anyone to help them, and how did they manage. So they tend to draw the courage, they draw the inspiration from their own life experiences. But most often not that our previous experience might not be helpful as in the current scenario. In the current context, it might be a different challenge. For example, if you are fighting a modern age war and you are using 1910s technology, tanks or guns, will you be able to survive? No. Obviously, you need to update, upgrade, and come up with new technology and embrace that is going on in the society. Your enemy has upgraded himself and he is throwing new challenges at you, and you are using the tools that were used in 1910s. Will that gonna work? Not. In most of the cases, by not showing their true nature, true vulnerabilities, true emotions, and true shortcomings of day-to-day life to their family, friends and colleagues, they are protecting their loved ones from the wrath of the society or the context or the situation. but often there is a spillover. They have this notion that they are protecting their family, but they are not. Because of that, they might not be able to understand that they have detached themselves from their family, friends, and colleagues. They often have to encounter this angry outburst, coldness, or the emotional detachment or negligence. But when we see this from the third person's point of view, an objective point of view, that we could see that this person is causing a lot more damage than he intends. He seems like he's protecting the family, friends, but he is not. If we observe their childhood, most of these people have taken responsibilities very early in their life. Like at the age of 7 or 8, they started cooking meals for the family, taking care of their younger ones and taking care of their sick parent. In some unfortunate instances, their parents are disabled persons or going through some mental health issue, or their parent might be a drug addict, an alcoholic, or a jobless guy who are going through a great difficulty, financial difficulties. The society might have outcasted these people. In most of the cases, they might have gone through these economical hardships where there is no support system to help that family. So in these instances, most of the boys, most of the men, they tend to take up the mantle of taking care of themselves, as well as taking care of their elder persons, as well as they're taking care of their younger persons. So in this process, they tend to hold their emotions, they tend to deny their own emotions. They never got the opportunity to process those emotions. If they seek the therapy, they are afraid that they might have to address this issue. They doesn't want to see this avalanche of emotions resurfacing again into their life. They doesn't want to feel like helpless person. It's a pretty dark zone that most of the people, they tend to get away when they are going through exposure therapy. Most of my friends have shared this phenomena that when they are employing this exposure therapy, that out of 100, 70% of the people were not able to manage that exposure therapy. So when these people were brought up in a hostile environment, the primary intention or goal of their life is to survive, just to spend that day, just to survive that day. While growing up, this lack of trust will permeate into the adulthood. That's why most of the men, you will see that they are indulging in substance abuse or taking help of wrong coping patterns, are indulging in risk-taking behavior. They're going for this adrenaline rush, or all of a sudden they're avoiding the responsibilities. And another thought pattern that I have observed in the male clientele is that they often make this contact, initial contact. They will message you, they will DM you, and they will approach you seeking help. Then often they will not turn up because they thought that they were able to achieve the initial win. The first attempt itself is an initial win for them. They might think that, okay, I have made an attempt, I have tried, let's see. Because they were not able to handle this emotional baggage that they thought that they could come over. They have made an attempt, but all of a suddenly their emotional baggage preceded everything, and they doesn't want to deal with that. So they will jump out of cocoon and they will say that I'm not going to take the help of therapy. And that's why you often see me using the colloquial Telangana dialect to be able to communicate with the rest of the people. The main motto behind using a colloquial, informal or a day-to-day language is to make sure that to create the bridge, to build the bridge, to create the trust between the people. It's not a big deal. We are not sitting on higher pedestal and we are not going to judge you. We can have this conversation as normal as possible. The problem with the therapists that they often employ that the classic or the complex or critical or the very professional jargon in their interaction with the media or interaction with their fellow clients. That would create an environment that people might think that therapy is not for me. All said and done, that I want to end this video on a good note. That I am seeing a great pattern, great amount of men seeking therapy, coming forward and being able to talk about their vulnerabilities and being able to express themselves through form of comments, through form of their posts. You might not have the courage to take up the therapy right now, but be in this process. Consume the good podcast, Try to read the good self-help books. Try to go through these all great interviews that are put on YouTube or some other platforms. As you go through this day-to-day activity and this routine, you might find courage. One day you might find courage to seek help. On that day, you might understand that you might accept that being vulnerable is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. It's a sign of courage to take the help. Seek the help. I wish you all good luck and go ahead with planning your life and achieving great success. Have a good day.